and then we'll get started right away. Thank you for tuning into the live stream, and thank you for being in the party chat tonight. Okay, so if you'll bow your heads, dear Heavenly Father, God, we come to you today, God. We ask Him that you will move through this word, God, that you've given me, God. God, let these words not be mine, but let them be yours, God. God, let us have open hearts to receive and open ears to hear, God. Let us not just merely listen to the word, God, but let us go out and do it, God. It says in James 1:22, it says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself, but do what it says." So, God, I ask that everybody here tonight will just listen and receive it, and then go out and practice it. I'm gonna need you guys to unmute your mics, okay? Stop. Whoever's doing that, seriously, stop. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna start tonight in Exodus verse 7, uh, or Exodus chapter 7, verses 14 through 24. And so we're gonna kind of be doing a series here. First time ever doing it. I'm hoping it's gonna go pretty good, and it's gonna be about the 10 plagues. Okay. And so if you're on the live stream, you can see the title of it. But if you're not, then the title of this message is gonna be Jehovah versus the Nile gods. And just some quick background here before we read our text. Jehovah is like basically the name of God. It's like it's like what I guess like instead of just saying God, it's like Jehovah. That's like kind of his name, you know. So that's what Jehovah is. That's who Jehovah is, I guess you can say. But we're gonna start reading in verse 14. It says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is unyielding. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning, and as he goes out to the river, confront him on the bank of the Nile, and take in your hand the staff that was changed into a snake. Then say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to say to you, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But until now you have not listened. This is what the Lord says. By this you will know that I am the Lord. I am the Lord. With the staff that is in my hand I will strike the water of the Nile, and it will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die, and the river will stink. The Egyptians the Egyptians will not be able to drink its water." The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the streams and canals, over the ponds and all the reservoirs, and they will turn into blood. Blood will be everywhere in Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone." Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded. He raised his staff in the presence of Pharaoh and his officials and struck the water of the Nile, and all the water changed into blood. The fish in the Nile died, and the river smelled so bad that the Egyptians could not drink the water. Blood was everywhere. But the Egyptians' magicians did the same thing, but by their secret arts, and Pharaoh's heart became hard. He would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. Instead, he turned and went into his palace, and did not take even this to heart. And all the Egyptians dug along the Nile to get drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the river. And so, like I said, we're gonna be doing the 10 plagues kind of, and like kind of the first thing I noticed like when reading these. I've always been a big mythology guy myself, but I was like, why was there a reason for these specific plagues? Because I feel like they were all specific for a reason. I feel like there's a reason God picked them. I just had that kind of in my heart, and there was a reason that God picked them out, because if you look at it, the Egyptians they had their own kind of mythology, just like the Greeks, just like the Romans, and just like the Vikings did. They had their little mythology. It's an Egyptian pantheon, uh, and so I was like, man, I was like. These plagues, they kind of match up with some of the gods of Egypt, and it was interesting. And so I started to do my research, and I mean the Egyptians had so many gods, but you notice they only had like one or two jobs, And so it's like they're almost like powerless outside of that one or two things that they do. But is anybody happy to stand here and know that we serve a God that can do all things? A God that doesn't need other people to help do his job? That God controls every single thing in the universe. I mean, if that doesn't get you pumped up, then I mean, there's probably not enough things in this world that's going to get you pumped up. But when you look at the Egyptians' gods, like I said, they match up. I mean, they match up with the plagues. Um, they match up with the plagues. It's basically showing God was basically showing the Egyptians how like their gods were useless compared to him. Their gods were not real. Their gods were just mythology. Like how we talk about the Greeks and the Roman gods today. I mean, we know that they're not real, but these Egyptians at this time, they believed in these gods. They believed that these gods were real and that they were powerful. But God proved that they are powerless, just like He does in our lives. Woo! Uh, and the first gods that He attacked were the Nile gods. And I was like, and you got to think about this. Like, you may not know at the time, but the Egyptians, I mean, like back in any early civilization, the most important thing was water, river, and oceans. Because I mean, that's the way you transported things. That's the way you got drinking water. That's just, I mean, water is just the center of life. I mean, you just need water to live with like air and food and stuff like that. But water's pretty important. And so God attacks the most important things to the Egyptians. He makes it clear that that's going to be the number one thing that he's going to target and show that these Egyptian gods are powerless over their own domain. I mean, he's God showing that these two Nile gods have nothing. These Nile gods can't do anything to help this Nile that the Egyptians needed so much. And that just kind of shows you that I mean, like, yeah, the Egyptians, their gods weren't able to protect things that they needed, but God can. God can protect those things if you ask him to. God will protect those things. God will give you even more of those abundant things, something that these Egyptian gods could never do. And so I'm just doing my research, you know. I want to make sure I get everything right. I kind of know a little bit about the Egyptian gods, like just a tad bit, just because I had looked at them stuff, but there was really mainly two gods, two of these Nile gods that God really pointed out and that God made an emphasis to attack. And I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, it's not like I'm having to reach for stuff right here. It's flat out. It's something that can show these Egyptians that, hey, your gods are really powerless, and the one, Jehovah, is the powerful one. And so the first one is Khnum. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he's the guardian of the Nile. And so as I was researching about the gods that are associated to the Nile, the first god that I stumbled upon was Khnum. I think that's how you say his name. Khnum. I mean, why do they have to make it so hard? I mean, we have vowels for a reason. You don't have to have an H in there. So I mean, that's kind of weird from the Egyptians, but who am I the one to judge? But Khnum was he was believed to be associated with the Nile, like I said, and he was the one that he was a protector of it. He protected it. He was important because he protected the most important things that the Egyptians had, like I talked about. But God was going to be But God wasn't going to be kept out of the Nile, was he? By a fake God. He wasn't going to be kept out of the Nile by a little idol. That's just not what happens to God. God doesn't let that happen. God isn't going to let a fake God, a little mythological statue that they have and they think that has power, he isn't going to let him keep it out of the Nile to make a point. God is bounded by nothing. And I mean, that's what it really proves here. I mean, he went and he did this to the Nile that, I mean, he made the fish die. He did so many things to this Nile that Khnum was supposed to protect. And that's kind of like with Satan, you know? Satan likes to kind of protect his strongholds. He likes to like I mean with weapons, you got to think about that. You want to protect your weapons. You don't want to just let your weapons be thrown out there and stuff. And so Satan is going to try to protect those weapons that he has. He's going to try to make sure that you can't get to those weapons because they have power. Just like how the Egyptians thought Khnum was going to protect the Nile because it had power for the Egyptians. But God wasn't going to be held back. God is all powerful. He is omnipotent. He is omniscient. He's too big for that. God cannot be bound. And so I mean, maybe you're having a problem in your life. Maybe maybe the Satan is guarding something from you. Maybe Satan's guarding you from having a good mental health. Maybe Satan's guarding you from being able to being with your buddies or something. Maybe Satan's guarding you from I don't know what you may be going through, but you know what? God can help you break that guard. That guard is not going to be able to be stood up when you have God on your side. And that's the thing. I had a question about this earlier, is like, how do you ask for things? And I mean, this is you ask for them by praying in God's name, it says. But it has to be in God's will. So if you have something in God's will and you ask for him to break that, if you ask for him to throw away that guardian, if you ask him to throw away that thing that's holding back what you want, then he will if it's in his name. And so that's what the Israelites needed. They needed God to break down. Or I don't know. That's kind of a weird way to say it. I don't know if the Israelites needed it, but God was able to break down something that was in the way of the Nile, according to the Egyptians. So I don't know. Maybe you're in your walk right now, and I mean you need something to move. So how about you tell that Khnum to move, because you have God right behind you, that won't be stopped by anything, just like he did back in Egypt. The other God that I was researching about and I thought it was very interesting. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, you think that Khnum would kind of be, he's the guardian, so wouldn't he be the source of the Nile, right? Wouldn't he, if he guards it, wouldn't he also be giving the Nile what it needed? But that's not like that, because the Egyptians didn't think that their gods were all powerful like that. The Egyptians thought only certain people could control things, but God can control everything. That's all I know. But going back to what I was saying, the next god is Hapi. He was the source of the Nile. He was basically like, if you go into, like, if you know about the Nile or whatever, it has these like slits, it has like all this stuff that makes it like really rich and stuff. And the Egyptians believe that he like controlled and balanced all that things out, and like, I mean, he wouldn't let things that were unnecessary in, like blood. So why was there blood in the river? Because God said there was going to be blood in the river. God can mess with that source that's struggling with you. Maybe you're having like a mental health, like I said. There's a source that's coming from that, right? There's a reason that's happening. And you know what? You don't have to worry about that, because God can break down that source. God isn't worried about that source, because God isn't controlled by the person that's sourcing that problem. Maybe you have a bully or something. Maybe you have someone that's making fun of you. Listen, man, I mean, it may feel like it's hopeless. It may feel like there's nothing you can do, that source will always reign supreme. But God can break down that source. God can take that source away, just like he did with Hapi. Hapi was supposed to be that source for the Egyptians, that source for the Nile. He was supposed to protect it. He was supposed to fill it up. He was supposed to make sure everything's right. Maybe that bully, he's making sure everything's right. He's making sure that your mental health can't get right. He's making sure that you're not confident. But you know what? If you speak it in God's name, God will let it happen. I mean, he did it back in Egypt. Why can't he do it now? There's this song, I think it's Elevation Worship that sings it. Braden can correct me if I'm wrong. It's called The Same God, and it's such a powerful song. I mean, I'll send it in the text message. I'll link it in the YouTube description. It's such a powerful song. It talks about how even though God did things 2,000 years ago, God still does it now. because God is the same God. And I think that's where many Christians forget, is that some people think that God isn't the same God anymore. God doesn't perform miracles, but God does perform miracles. And when you start having that faith, it talks about, I've preached a message on this before, having faith like a mustard seed. Talks about if you just have a little tiny faith, tiny side of a mustard seed. I have one hanging up in my room. It's tiny. I'll send a picture of it in the group chat. I mean, it's so small. And God says if you have that, you can tell a mountain to go jump in the sea. So maybe you need that faith. You need that faith in God, that God can move that spirit of the God that's in your way, that's sourcing the problems that you're facing. But you know what? If you ask God, God will take it away. And I mean, just kind of wrapping this all up, my main question to you is: Are you gonna let these Egyptian gods that there's so many of? I mean, this is gonna be the whole narrative throughout this entire series. Are you gonna let these little Egyptian gods control your life, or are you gonna let the one true God control your life? Are you gonna believe in a myth, or are you gonna believe in things that we've seen, things that we know are real, not just little idols that we've crafted? And so that's really all I have tonight. Uh, I would say be reading in Exodus, because I mean, be reading about the 10 plagues, just kind of keeping yourself prepared about it. Because I mean, these stories are really powerful to see what some of the things God does. It's really powerful, and if you know the things that we're talking about, then it's going to help you be able to wrap your mind around it a little bit easier. But that's all I have for tonight. So thank you for joining in the live stream, and thank you for joining in the party chat. I'm going to end it off. Thank you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.